Strategic Leadership Club. That is who we are. And in order to really understand more about us as a club, I want to highlight where we really came from, and that's the Goff Strategic Leadership Center. For those not familiar, the Goff Strategic Leadership Center is an immersive program here at the University of Utah that offers 2 courses, a semester course with through the Goff Trailblazer program, and a year-long course entitled the Goff Scholars Program. Along with the courses, they host various amounts of case competitions throughout the year. The center provides students involved within their program the ability to learn critical skills through their application of classroom-taught concepts to real-world projects that are sponsored by kind of the broader business community, such as partnerships with various companies to really obtain that practical experience. From me personally, I can say that taking this course was one of the best decisions I made throughout my college experience. It really takes you beyond the classroom, where you get to apply all the elements of what you're learning, in your courses to an actual real life project. Think of it as a case study or a project, but in real life, where you get to see these real tangible results. Like, for example, when I was involved in the program, I worked with a fintech startup in New York. Like, these are some of just the great opportunities you can have. And trust me, you'll walk out of the program with a completely new and elevated viewpoint on college that you can't really get anywhere else. And our goal with the Goff Strategic Leadership Club is to bring all those aforementioned opportunities and resources of the center to the entire campus community to really continue our mission of providing practical learning opportunities and experiences for students as they navigate their way throughout college. And we plan to do this through additional experimental learning opportunities with businesses in our local communities, such as working with, let's say, a local ski shop on a project, mentorship opportunities with local leadership as well, job shadowing, leadership conferences, and there's a lot more in store. And with that being said, I will pass the mic over to Luis to speak a little bit about Business Scholars.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Luis Ramirez, and I am a sophomore and the vice president for Business Scholars Club. Business Scholars Club is sort of like an honors business program for incoming freshmen, transfer students, or any University of Utah student that wants to be more involved. This is a Goth Strategic Leadership event, but they reached out to Business Scholars Club so we can partner up for this event and have business scholars come and see the great benefits that Goff Strategic Leadership Center has to offer. And so I hope you all enjoy it. And also, if you came for the Business Scholars points, be sure to stick till the end and we'll put up the QR code.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Luis. And now we're fortunate to be joined by 4 amazing former Goff students and graduates of the University of Utah. And I'll start off with Colby Judd. So Colby graduated in 2019 with a degree in economics and a minor in physics. He then went on to achieve really every finance major and economics major's dream of working at Goldman Sachs in their investment banking division in New York. So, I mean, we can basically say he's in the big leagues. I'll pass that on to now to Rama. Rama's a recent graduate with a BS in QAMO, Quantitative Analysis of Market and Organizations. And Rama, if I'm being honest, she may have the coolest title of anyone I've ever met, being a business intelligence analyst. So it's really hard to compete with that. And next we have Miranda J Jacobs. Miranda graduated in 2019 with a major in finance and now holds the role of Global Equity Research Analyst at Grandeur Peak Advisors. And you won't really find someone who's been more involved throughout their collegiate experience and within the campus community than Miranda was. During her time at the U, she was involved in the Student Investment Fund, Goth Scholars, Business Scholars, and was heavily involved within her sorority as well. Saving the best for last, we have Dave Shaw. Dave graduated in 2017 with a degree in marketing. He leveraged his immense artistic talents with his business knowledge to obtain creative roles with Enzo Rings, and is now the art director for BGZ brands. And sweet, now that we kind of have that background on our panelists, this can lead really into our first discussion and questions I have for the 4 of you. So a lot of people, as mentioned within Business Scholars, are more or less are freshmen or very early in their college careers. Given all your pedigree in achieving high results throughout college and now even post-college, do you guys have a certain habit or maybe piece of advice that you wish you knew as a freshman or early on? And to really help with this, I'll just throw it to you, Colby, to start us off.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ethan. So I'm going to do two things. One for like the habit that I think is really important that I didn't do so well in college is asking questions and just being curious. In college, I was a pretty big like individual go-getter. Like I would go study on my own and kind of figure it out myself. That being said, like now that I'm in the workplace, you have to ask a lot of questions. And if you want to be successful, particularly like investment banking, you need to be pretty inquisitive. So that's like just the basic habit question. I encourage you all, answer. I encourage you all to like always be asking questions. Don't worry about how stupid or silly the questions may sound. Like they're still important and that's how you learn. But the second one that I was going to answer on this, and I think this is a little bit more important, it's not so much a habit, but just in like a thing to keep in mind when you are in college, which is especially you freshmen and sophomores, you have a lot of time to really like figure out your career and where you want to go. And you are going to get there by the time you get to the end of college. So I like really emphasize using your first few years to focus on things that you find personally enjoyable or like good learning opportunities that may have like absolutely zero benefit to your career or like where your trajectory is. So that may mean like, do you like philosophy and taking like a philosophy class, or maybe you want to really get involved in some kind of extracurricular sport? That stuff, particularly when you are applying to like roles like at Goldman or other roles where there's a lot of applicants, is so crucial to helping you like stand out and just be more of a unique candidate versus so many candidates that we see. Plus, it'll also just like make you not regret your college experience, because I mean, you can only really do college once. So make sure you don't regret it and get what you can out of it. And I mean, lastly, like almost anything you do really does tie back to your career and what you're going to do in the future. You just have to figure out how to tell that story. But I mean, like, I think almost every random thing that I did, and some of them were really random because I was like pre-med for a while. So there's a lot of pre-med related things. I worked at like a retail pharmacy for a long time. Like you can always tie that into your story for what you want to do. And that just makes you a more interesting candidate at the end.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Colby. I love what you mentioned about telling your story, especially. I think it's something we all kind of have that's unique to us and really helps really show on our resume and as we kind of go throughout our careers. And now I'll push that question as well to the other three panelists.
I can go next if you guys are cool with it. For me, the biggest thing is, a lot of you are about to graduate, but for those that are still in school, you can start now. Everybody else, you can still start now. But just make sure you take time for yourself. All through school, there's a lot of pressure to always, don't take this the wrong way, always be in class, do your assignments, do the readings, be on top of things. Honestly, looking back on it, one thing I wish I did more of was take a day off to go ski when there was good snow. I would have been just fine to miss a day here and there. Now when you work, to take off, your day to go because you have PTO, it doesn't happen nearly as often as you look back and you're like, man, I really didn't need to go that one day. And it was like dumping snow. But taking time for yourself, whatever that looks like for you. For me in school, started working out more and being healthier. My wife introduced me to the gym and showed me like how to actually work out and stuff, and that was a big help. But to maintain whatever those things are as you get into the workplace, because it seems like you don't have time now, but you have energy. When you get into your jobs, you find you'll have time, but you no longer have energy. You get home at the end of the day and you just want to sit and you don't want to do anything. So like you have to just kind of keep going and maintain whatever that is. For me, I take a certain amount of time every day to read. And usually it's like I'll read fantasy or sci-fi, and then a little bit of stuff that's more like educational for just like personal development. And then at least I try to take at least 15 minutes to play my cello every day, just to stay something that's not on a screen, that's not in the digital world, I guess, because I spend too much time looking at a computer.
I can just hop right in here. Yeah, I would say I really agree with both of those things. I definitely don't take enough time for myself. That's great advice. That, yeah, as I hear it, I want to do more of that. To Colby's point about asking questions, the founder and chairman of our company, he has this policy that everybody needs to ask at least one question in a meeting, whether you're the newest intern or the most senior person. And so I think it's a really great art to start practicing as early as possible. I sort of had three really quick things as I think about this. The first one is find a great mentor. Preferably somebody who's a student. If you're a freshman, somebody who's a little bit older than you. I had an incredible mentor. I met her through my sorority, but she was a finance major just like I was. And that's really how I got involved and met the right people and learned, the things that I needed to learn. And so, find somebody who's older than you who can sort of pave the way. Clubs like this are a great way to do that. The second thing, sort of touching on Colby's point, is for sure GPA is important to a certain extent. But yeah, there's way more important things than GPA. You should take the classes that you're interested in. Companies care way more about that and being able to speak to those experiences than somebody who's got a 4.0 and didn't really, have fun or do anything interesting, who didn't demonstrate sort of an intellectual curiosity. So I think that that's really important. I talk to people who get so hung up on that, and that's not the main point. And then three, I think probably the most important thing for me is don't self-select yourself out of anything. Make someone else tell you no. So, it's not the end of the world to get a no. It's going to happen many times. So, just a sort of a testament to this, my GPA was actually too low to apply to the internship that at Grandeur Peak that actually turned into a full-time job for me after school. And I went to the career counselor and was like, hey, this is what I'd love to do, but my GPA is too low. And because I'd sort of developed a relationship with her, she sent my resume anyway. And now I'm here and I've been working here full time. So, don't self-select out. That's, I think, the most important thing. Just make other people do that for you.
Oh my gosh, I relate to that so much. Like, I agree with Miranda 100%. I mean, obviously, what everybody said was so true. Like, whether it's David's or Colby's or Miranda's points of views, they're super, like, I resonate with them so much. I wish I was in something like this when I was freshman and taking these notes. But I have like two things which really ties into what already people have said. But to Colby's point about and Miranda's point about learning and like asking questions, I want to say never stop learning. And like, oh my gosh, I wish I wasn't like, oh my God, I need an A in this class. I wish I was like, okay, let's actually learn. Like, let me understand, like, why do we do it this way? Or like one of the classes was like, or accounting basic classes, like, why do we care about liabilities and assets and whatever? So I feel like truly just like take a minute and learn rather than being like, oh my God, I need 10 out of 10 on this or like something. So that's like, I'm a full-time worker right now. And oh my God, when David said that you have time but no energy, I so feel that. But I'm currently in a product management fellowship, and like I'm doing like a case study, and I'm like working, I'm like a kind of a student, but not really. So I'm still like, yeah, I'm a full-time, but I'm still learning because I want to become a product manager. As much as BI analyst sounds cool, I still want to go somewhere. So like never stop learning, because that's something, even like just learning about yourself too, because that's something, it's irreplaceable. And also like keeps your juices flow. But my other point was like, I'm like first generation and I'm an international student, and I didn't know how important it is to just talk to people. I don't like the word networking. I hate that word, but like just like talk to people. I think like Miranda mentioned, it's like you can find a mentor through that by talking to people. I think, I don't know what mentioned this, but like truly taking the time to understand what do you want to do in your career. You figure that out by talking to people. And like Ethan just mentioned that, I didn't know about this, but the Goff program, you could go and like shadow people at jobs maybe. So that's something that you could take advantage of and like see what is the actual day to day. So that's something I wish I did when I was back in college, to like really talk to people and understand even more about their day-to-day jobs, and just like understanding, okay, this is interesting, this is not, and like just talking to people is a good learning opportunity too. So yeah, those are 2 points from me.
Honestly, I can't think of a better way to really start this all off. That was amazing piece of advice from really everyone. And there's so much quotable kind of things that were said too. Like when Miranda stated there's so much more than your GPA, really highlights. I mean, I can even speak from being a junior in college of, it means a lot, but you really remember those times where you're involved in clubs and extracurricular things than you do, being in the classroom. And then kind of to Dave's point of focusing on yourself as well. And while school is very kind of taxing on you, it's always like, it's never a bad thing to, take that little break for yourself and remember, I mean, your mental and physical health in the end is a result, like will result in your happiness. So I love that point. And then really just like scaling back to Miranda as well, of finding a mentor on campus. And one of the great things about the University of Utah is there's the faculty we have is just so opening and welcoming to really anyone. You can knock on their door, walk in. We have Ruchi Watson involved in this call, and I can say she served as one of mine, that she's just been so welcoming and really shows a want to help students. And I feel like this is kind of just a sentiment that's shared within all faculty here at the U. Sweet. And so now I'll pass it on to Luis for our next question.
Awesome. So for the next question, a little, some of you guys touched up on this a little bit, but could you talk about the transition process from college to the workforce, for example, internships or the application process, the interview process? And we'll kind of go on the same order, but we'll start with David and then go to Miranda, Rama, and then Colby.
So leaving school, or like in school, I worked in the marketing communications department in the Eccles School for a little while, for a few semesters. As a designer, I grew up, my dad is a graphic designer and has a print shop down in Utah County. And so that's how I learned design, was from him. And then doing freelance through school to pay for school, and working again in marketing communications. So for me, my career track is a little bit different, having a degree in marketing and then just going straight into a design role. But it's where I could get a job, and it ultimately would lead to the career track that I'm on right now as an art director. It wasn't the ideal step. Like if I could have just been an art director straight out of school, that'd been great, but I didn't know anything and I didn't know enough. And so taking a job where I could and making myself useful on a smaller team, it really benefited me in that way. So oftentimes your career may not go the way that you feel like is always like a linear progression in the right direction. But whatever role you find yourself in, you can always make yourself valuable to the team that you're on, and you can always find value for yourself for what you have available to learn, and for what your next steps are. And as long as you're moving forward in some way, you're still moving forward.
Yeah, I think building off of that, my process or my journey was also not very linear. I'm originally from Michigan, and so when I first graduated from high school, I went to Michigan State for a semester, and it just was not a good fit for me. I'm from a super small town one stoplight. Michigan State has 50,000 students. Just really didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I took a year off sort of to regroup, and I worked full time as a staffing consultant for a staffing agency. That job's way harder than the job that I had now or have now. And it gave me, just a real appreciation for, what it means to be a professional and to interact with other business people. And so when I came to the U, I knew that I wanted to study finance. And I sort of just got, as involved as I could. I just wanted to learn more about it. And so I did things like it was called the finance boot camp at the time. I'm not sure what it's called now. I know a lot of the curriculum has changed, but sort of just did whatever I could to learn more, to see if this was really, truly what I wanted to do. And then jumped on, every opportunity I could to learn more. A lot of my peers sort of, that maybe didn't end up getting the job that they wanted right out of school. Part of their challenge was like, they would sort of say like, oh, hey, I'm not ready for that yet. I haven't learned this thing. And my approach was always like, I'm just going to do it and learn while doing. And so then I did the student investment fund at the U, which is basically where I was, doing exactly what my job is now, working as a stock picker. And so that's how I sort of came across the internship opportunity at Grandeur Peak. And I worked there all through school, my junior year and senior year, working 25 hours a week, full time in the summer. And then, stayed on after graduation. So, in some ways, I think it's important to, to remember it's okay to call an audible and change your mind and do something else, and find the thing that really is going to fit.
I agree with Miranda. Like, you don't have to know everything. I mean, if you knew, then why are you working? Like, you should just go to a harder level, So I think I wish I did that, like, most of the time. Oh my God, I did so many mistakes, but here I am telling you not to do it. Like, I oftentimes did not apply because I rejected myself. And like Miranda said, like, don't reject yourself before like getting a no. And then my excuse was like, oh, I don't know this thing. So one thing that I wish I did more often is just like apply for anything it doesn't have to be an interesting company. Obviously, if they don't go with your ethics, don't do it, but apply for like responsibilities that you're interested in learning. And even at the end of the day, if you don't like it, I think the interview process gives you experience. Like, I literally have sticky notes. Like, I still practice interviewing till today. Like, I do it all the time just to gain confidence. And like Colby mentioned, like, knowing how to tell your story, I think is super important. And something I wish I explored more. So I did college in 3 years, worst decision of my life, but I had to do it because of money. So it was like, I was working full time, I was a student, so I never had time to really process these things, but really take time to think about what is the interview process for this opportunity. So I'm interested in consulting and product management, and consulting, you have to do like case like interviews. And with product management, it's the same thing, but it's for like product sense kind of questions. So make sure you understand like how is the interview process, and don't complicate it. Like, just practice, do your best, and just go to the interview and like, okay, I just did my best. Like, what else do you want me to do? I'm not going to do more than this. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, like, even if you don't get an internship that you really wanted, starting somewhere is important. Like, it's super important. And just keep in mind, like, people around you, don't think like, oh my God, everybody knows what they're doing. No, they just know what they're doing best right now. So just keep doing, just keep learning, and like take an opportunity and go from there is better than just sitting and waiting for the perfect opportunity to come. Like, you're not gonna, I mean, we're in 21st century. You're not gonna stay in your job forever. You're gonna move to another one for sure.
Okay, and I'll try to be quick with this, but I really want to build off of what Miranda was saying. I think one thing that was huge was I was always in college, you always have all these opportunities that present themselves to yourself just in random places. And when an opportunity presents itself, like really like tackle it and go for it. And I think that was huge. Like there was stuff where I was like, oh, that's completely different from what I want to do. But I was like, this is interesting. And even though it doesn't line up with the plan I gave myself, this like the beginning of this year, I'm going to pursue it now. And by doing that, I mean, my plan and trajectory changed so much, which is like, clearly when I started college, I was a physics major hoping to go to medical school and maybe be an astronaut one day. And now I like do investment banking, and I took like 10 different other stops during that journey. So I think it's important just, pursue stuff and don't worry if it aligns with where you're thinking, because it may influence how you ultimately go. And then the second thing, I just reiterating the story piece for the interview part, so important. You don't have as much, like in college, you're really busy, but it's rare that you have so much time in your life to really like think and reflect upon who you are as a person, what interests you, and like what are you good at and what are your weaknesses, because you just get challenged in all this through so many different things you do, and you also get the time to think about it. So I mean, that one's huge. I'm like interviewing for jobs again now, and I like don't have a story anymore because I've been so out of practice. And so I'm trying to like figure out how to do it again, because in college it was so like I knew it so well. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Colby. And honestly, all of your answers were just pretty great. And just hearing all of your stories about transitioning is really fascinating, especially this kind of speaks on Rama's point of, the confidence that you did your best. And I feel like that kind of level of confidence speaks to really what everyone just elaborated in, such as have the confidence, yeah, you did your best to pursue opportunities, like Miranda and Colby said, and have that confidence in your story as well. I think those are all pretty awesome lessons that we can all take in. And sweet, this is all just some amazing advice. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I can tell you now I have a pretty decent amount of notes on all of your experiences. And so I kind of wanted to transition this into more personal questions for each individual panelist instead of that kind of round table type of vibe. So Colby, I'll start with you. And I wanted to ask you a specific question because many students, especially majoring in business, have a large desire to go out of state. And I mean, especially in a city like New York. What are some of the most, what you would say, like unexpected things you found from that transition to working and living in New York after attending your old college in Utah?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'd say I moved to New York like a month and a half before Corona. So that was a huge difference in expectations. But besides that, I think one of the biggest things is I imagined, especially with going to Goldman, where it's a huge company, I was going to move to New York and I was going to make like a bunch of friends with my coworkers. And I do have a bunch of, I am good friends with a lot of people I work with. But I thought that's like how I was going to get to know people and build out my social life. And because of that, I would really feel comfortable in the city. And I learned, and maybe part of this is because COVID and no one was in the city anymore, but it's really important to like try to diversify your social networks or like people you interact with. And so like, just because it's hard to spend so much time with people you work with and then you hang out with them on the weekend and like, that's the only people you ever interact with. And so that was big to me, was like, I expected that to be a much easier transition. But now that in New York, I have a lot of friends from various backgrounds, just from, I'm like interested in running. So I joined a running club that I'm interested in. I have friends from like, things I've done with volunteering. I've managed a couple of friends I had in the city already, like getting connected with their social group. So that was big. I think the only other thing that I kind of expected this, but it's still something to be prepared for. If you're moving to a big city from Utah, it's just like the nature of what you do changes. It's not like, I can't go ski and climb a mountain whenever I want. So everything's just a lot different in how you socialize. It's a lot of like eating, like walk around the city. So I don't know. Not sure if that was like super helpful, but.
No, that was great. Especially, when you think about diversifying your social network, that's something, everyone on this like Zoom event can really take into account that, it's really cool to have that little narrow group of friends, but you never know what saying hi to, one of your classmates or making that extra effort to kind of expand your social community can really pay its dividends in the future. Awesome. And I'll pass it over to Luis for this next question.
Yeah, so the next question is for Rama, and you talked about your background in product management and consulting. And the question is, could you give us some tips and tricks for adding value to an organization?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, my situation was a little bit different. I graduated in May 2020, so it was like peak COVID. We love it. Everything is crashing and burning. Like, it's just not easy. I mean, some people landed awesome opportunities, which I'm super happy about, but my situation is kind of different. And I'm an international student, so there's not many opportunities to get on as well. So, so I joined a startup. I was a support, just a support specialist. And I just saw at this startup that, you honestly, like, your data sucks. Like, what is going on? Like, and they are a customer relation management company, which they supposedly would be able to help you manage your leads, basically. So I just honestly saw an opportunity, and the reason I was able to find an opportunity is by listening. Like, when you join first in a company, just listen for the first 3 months. And then you can figure out, okay, where can I bring impact? And see, okay, from what you've learned in school and done, like, what can I bring to the table? So I saw a huge opportunity of, like, you could create a better intuitive dashboards that are insightful for your clients, and you could have this much return on investment, which is ROI, and this is how it's going to help perceive your brand, and this is how it's going to have higher value and blah blah blah, and perceived by your clients. And then I put it together, and I just talked to my manager, and he let me talk to the COO. And then I just, like, within 5 months, I became a BI analyst. So basically right now I'm creating reports for them that is automated. I'm helping them organize their data. I'm helping them, like, sweep the thing. So even if I leave today, I would have made a huge impact. But I know that I just saw an opportunity because I listened and just made a value proposition and just go for it. And the worst case scenario was for me to get a no, but no, I just got a raise, so that's how you go about it, to be honest. So just take an opportunity and listen, truly just listen. I would say is the best approach.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. And now, sweet. Now for Miranda, as we mentioned earlier, it's kind of hard to find someone who kind of has that level of involvement on campus than you did. I was talking to Nick Tygeson, one of our fellow leaders here at the Goff Strategic Leadership Club. I talked to him yesterday, and he kind of summed it up perfectly when we were talking about student investment fund and being in Goff. And he said, there should be an award for people who do Goff and SIF. And so with that being said, what are some things that you learned from really these on-campus experiences that apply directly to your professional career? And do you have any advice for those looking to become more involved on campus?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because while I was doing it, I didn't really understand, like, the level. So I did the student investment fund first, my junior year, and then I did Goff my senior year. And a lot of people told me I was kind of crazy for doing Goff because I'd already landed the internship at Grandeur. I was working there through school. It was pretty likely that if they weren't going to give me a job, I could probably use that to find a job somewhere else. But really, I just did Goff because I wanted to have the opportunity to learn, and I'd heard great things about Bonita and wanted to learn from her. And so I think the thing that I learned the most, I mean, SIF was very much like, I work for a mutual fund now. I help pick stocks. I'm analyzing companies, and so, like, the functions of my job very much relate to SIF. But the thing that I learned in Goff was, how to solve problems, and it gave me this greater appreciation for really great management teams and great companies that can solve problems. So from sort of my analytical, like, hey, I'm trying to find a great investment opportunity, I learned a lot from both of those things that I use all the time. in my day-to-day work. But the last thing I would say is like, I just learned how to get really tough feedback in both of those classes. SIF, you get really, really brutal, honest feedback about your work. You pretty much think you're failing the entire semester because you get such low grades on all of your assignments. But really, I just took it as an opportunity to learn. And with Goff, it's the same thing. The stakes are high. You're working on real projects, and you're going to get feedback on those if it's not acceptable to present to the client. So I learned, just how to receive that feedback and use it constructively and turn it into something that, is a learning opportunity. And now at my job, I present companies to portfolio managers all the time. And I get feedback from many superiors in, group presentations, but also over email. And so to learn how to not take that personally and just use it as fuel was a great experience.
Awesome. So the last question is for David, and after that, we'll open up the questions to the audience. And so David, as the art director for Lander, how do you direct creativity in a strategic decision? And where do you draw your inspiration from to increase your creativity?
Great question. So every week my team has 2 meetings all of our designers are in, and we get together partly. So we have one at the beginning of the week where we go over, okay, what's on our plate coming up. And then at the end of the week, it's kind of a recap. Where are we? We did on a Thursday. Any last things we have to tie up for that are due. We put priority on them. We do them Friday, ship them off, so they're done off our plates. We can all go into the weekend just kind of resting easy. There's a few things that kill creativity, and one of them is just worrying over the weekend. Like, you have to have rest. You have to be able to let it go, come back to it on Monday. No amount of time. There's a lot of problems that no amount of time can solve if you aren't in the right space for it. And in those meetings, both times we'll go through, and everybody will just go through if they have anything to share, cool things they've seen on Instagram, Pinterest, wherever, different campaigns we've seen from other companies. We'll bring them up, we'll go through and we'll talk about what we like, and we pull things from it. We say, wow, this looks really cool. I like how they did this, how they talked to this demographic or who they were going after. And we say that works for us in this way. And we just kind of make notes on it. And then someday down the road, when the opportunity presents itself, we'll pull those pieces and we'll apply them to our own business. In that, it's just like in a textbook. You find out your demographics. We get all the information from our product marketing team. They give us, this is who you're going after. This is their age group. This is how much they make. This is where they spend time online. This is where they spend time offline, where they're shopping. And we'll take all that and we say, okay, great. This is who we have to sell stuff to. This is what we need to sell to hit our projections and to meet our, revenue goals and everything. And we just start, every idea is a good idea until proven otherwise. And we just start writing them down. We put them all out there. Everybody goes through. A lot of times, the biggest killer of ideas is budget. And so we'll have to cut back and we say, okay, we keep that's so cool. That'd be like an amazing campaign, but we don't have budget. We don't have time to be able to do it well. And so it's not worth doing. Like I said earlier, killers of creativity. Another one for us and that I've seen is focusing too much on perfection. If you're always focused and hyper-focused on getting something that's 100% dialed in, perfect, that you're just like, yeah, you're gonna spin your wheels a lot because nobody will ever think that it's perfect. Like Miranda said, all through her projects, you just feel like you're failing all the time. If you're like, yeah, this is great, and then it's like, oh man, I'm terrible. I am so bad, and this is awful. And then at the end of the day, it's not as bad as you think. It may not have been perfect. But 95% of the time we shoot for really good or great. And we pass on perfection because we have other things to do. And as far as directing the creativity, we have to just keep moving because there's other things that need to get done. And so it's just kind of you're your harshest critic. and done beats perfect, and you have to keep moving.
That was great. Thank you guys so much. And so now we'll kind of take this last 15 minutes to have a Q&A from the audience. And I saw a couple questions were thrown in the chat, but we'll start this off from a question from one of our participants, Lily Peterson. So Lily, you can unmute and ask the question whenever.
Okay, thank you, Ethan. I was just wondering, what did you gain from like your Goth experience, and did the Goth like add value to your professional career, or like would you recommend that we do Goth as well?
I could go if you want me to. Personally, I feel like Goff, I think Miranda mentioned this, and I think everybody mentioned this at some point, that it gives you realistic work reality. Like the pressure is on, the risks are on, you get real feedback. So I think, I mean, when I was doing Goff, there wasn't many opportunity to do one semester. So I highly recommend, at least if you can, just to do like the one semester part, because you don't only like learn how to solve problems like mentioned, but also you get this taste like what it feels like to work at a high risk environment. I mean, it's still, you don't get fired or something, but you still can get like bad grades, but you learn from it. So that's one thing. It gives you realistic work. Second thing is like gives you realistic feedback. And the third thing is really understanding how to work with people. Like you might be right now in a group and you're like, oh my God, my teammates actually suck, but you never know. Maybe you're the person who doesn't know how to communicate. And that's something you get to learn when you go through the Goff experience. Like, oh, I could be better at this when working with people. And other thing is like, you can bring it so many times in interviews, like, oh, I did this, I did that, because you usually go through 2 different projects in a semester. So you can bring that up in interviews. Like, one time I was working on this project and this happened. So I highly recommend it. And also like Bonita is a huge resource, and just to getting to talk to her is amazing, and so much to learn from her. So I highly recommend personally.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with what Rama was saying. First, like Bonita, huge advocate. I like talked to her last week, so I still stay in touch with her, and she'll always be your ally if you come in, you work hard and you care, and she cares deeply about our students. But I think one of the biggest things about Goth is you kind of really learn how to build a narrative in the business sense, or like a story. So you like do these presentations and you're kind of building the story of, what can be changed or what can happen for this company or nonprofit organization you're working with. And that's like fairly important in the business world. I know that's one thing, especially like for my career. Basically, that's what investment bankers are, is we are selling the story of a company, and whether that's to like equity investors or people are going to invest in an IPO, or someone that's going to buy the company outright. So understanding how to build a narrative and tell it well is super helpful, and something that like most people don't have when they come into this role. They're like really good at Excel, they're really good at finance, but they're not really good at like telling you what that means or like what you're working with. So I'd say like absolutely do it. And the last thing I'd say about it is it like, again, it's just the touch of realism. You work with companies or nonprofits in Goff where you have to like, in all your business classes, you're told like, oh, you just pull this lever, like we can increase sales by XYZ or whatever. But once you like actually interact with these companies and learn like their limitations or what they actually want to do, or have to understand their perspective, you understand that like you can't just apply textbook solutions. You have to be much more creative in like how you think about what companies are capable of doing, and what you will ultimately be doing inside of a business, which is being cognizant of that.
I think, yeah, all these points have been great. The only other thing besides, shout out to Bonita, an amazing professor, just great to be able to learn from her. So the only other thing is sort of the interdisciplinary aspect of Goff was really unique for me. Like in the student investment fund, everybody's a finance major. You're working with them all the time. And that's great for what the student investment fund is. But, in the real world, you're interacting with people who didn't always study the same thing as you. So as a research analyst, it's my job to really learn as much as I can about a company. And then when I pitch it to a portfolio manager to try to convince them to buy it in the fund, I have to be able to explain things as clearly as possible to them. And they might not understand, the specific industry acronyms or things like that. And so working with the team where not everybody's speaking the same language, in terms of, what they know and what they've been trained in, that's, a skill that's really important and tough to learn if you don't practice.
I echo everything that's already been said. The interdisciplinary aspect of it was huge for me. I was one of like 2 marketing students in our program. We had tons of finance and accounting, and understanding how to work between different groups. Everybody has areas to add value, but given real circumstances, real situations that you have the opportunity to help a business or an organization, and understanding how you can add value within that group was huge. And it translates directly to a workplace where you get in and you might feel like you look around the room and there's a lot of people you look at and you think, man, they know so much more than me. They're so much smarter than me. But at the end of the day, everybody has a unique perspective and something to add. So if you're considering, or you're on the fence, or if you're not even considering it, consider it. And like it's been said multiple times already tonight, don't say no to yourself. Make somebody else tell you no. Just do it.
That was awesome. Thank you guys. And I mean, I think myself and everyone else involved in Goff currently can echo that statement on the kind of interdisciplinary aspect of Goff. It really, to me, builds this really special community that you'll find. Not often do you get to work with finance, Quamo majors, while then even having an art major, someone not even in the business school. Just brings a lot of cool, diverse thought that just adds into the unique kind of element that Goff provides. And cool, we have time for about one more quick question, and I'll throw that to Addie. And Addie, you're welcome to unmute at any time.
Right. Thanks, Ethan. So this question is kind of specific for me. I wanted to ask Rama, is that how you pronounce it? Okay. So I'm an international student too, and I've been trying to apply for internships in summer, but a lot of companies, they don't have OPT, CBT, like availability with their organization. So it kind of gets hard to get jobs or internships. So did you face any kind of problems like that, and how did you work around them?
Oh boy, I faced a lot. I faced a lot. And I'm glad that you asked that question. So the first thing I would say is to obviously ask I personally, some companies say, we don't accept OPT, CPT, but that's just what they say. But then they give you an interview, which sucks, because at the end of the interview, they're like, well, congratulations, but hey, you know what? Can you fill out this form of like work authorization? And then you're like, actually, I'm on like OPT. And they're like, oh, just kidding. Let's take it back. So I would say ask from the beginning. Make sure to ask that when they extend, like, hey, I'm super glad that you chose me for the interview. Could you just confirm that the company is E-verified? And also, is it okay that I am going to be an OPT or a STEM extension? And then there is like a lot of websites online to see even like list of companies who accept OPT. So that's something I would do, and then go through those companies and see which ones interest you and apply to them, and making sure that, first of all, know what you want to do. Like make sure that you have 2 to 3 roles maximum, or even think about like the responsibilities that you want to do at work, and then start finding companies that have those opportunities. And I would ask your advisor as well, because they could show you through a handshake a way to access like into companies that do give H-1B visas or do accept OPT and CPT. So I would just make sure to kind of find those companies and apply to whatever interests you, and don't be afraid to ask your advisors. And just apply. Even if the company doesn't interest you, just apply. You never know. Maybe you talk to them and then you're like, oh, I'm super wrong. This company's interesting. And at the end, it's like interview like experience for you as well. So that's a way I would go about it.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And I'll sneak in one last question we have from the chat. So Rama, this is another one for you from Chloe. And Chloe asks, I'm in sort of in the same boat with graduating early for financial reasons. What would your advice be to make sure that I and any other people graduating early are prepared to enter that workforce so soon?
Yeah, so first of all, I hope I'm not monopolizing the conversation, but I'll answer that question. So obviously take opportunities that you could hit like two birds in one stone. So Goth is like a credit for school, so you get that, but also it's like an internship or a fellowship opportunity. So that's one thing that I would say, like in terms of getting opportunities. And obviously, even if the investment fund interests you, take that too. So that's one way to get that thing on your resume that you can talk about in interviews. And the second advice is make sure to talk to people. I swear to God, it will get you places. And like, I know a lot of people say get referrals, but when you talk to people, don't go with the intention of getting a referral, just go to an intention of listening to the person and understanding from their experience. And if they like you, they're gonna refer you. If not, it's their loss, who cares? But like, make sure to have those conversations and block out either like few hours in a weekend where you do job search, where you reach out to people on LinkedIn and edit your resume and apply to things, or make it like a daily thing for 30 minutes. Like, you could watch Netflix and send people LinkedIn messages. Like, you could do it, so that's an advice that I would give, like, make sure to talk to people. And then again, make sure you know what you want to do, because if you're just like, oh, I don't know, then you're going to waste a lot of time just applying to things that you might not be interested in, or things that you haven't prepared the interviews for. So make sure that you're intentional with your application, make sure you have a set schedule, and make sure to know your story. So there is some advice that I would give. And if you can, make sure to take internships. So that way you could have not just experience, but monetary value you could put for tuition, so you could push maybe your graduation, but experience matters, and like the people who you know also matters. Hopefully that answered the question.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rama. And as we kind of conclude here, just with 2 minutes away from being 8, I just want to thank everyone for coming to the meeting today. And I can say that I was blown away from our panelists and just all their responses today. And I'm really, really looking forward to apply those lessons. And to kind of like give an overview, like some of their advice that just really stuck out was, the emphasis of telling your story, the kind of emphasis to reach out and connect to people on campus or within your own kind of community. Because I read this quote one time, and it was like, that feeling of regret is much worse than the feeling of receiving a no. And so kind of, it's just great to hear that sentiment really echoed by 4 panelists who have just amazing pedigree and who have really been through it all. And yeah, so we just at the Goff Strategic Leadership Club, we would love to connect with you all as well. I'll put my email in the chat if anyone has any questions regarding the club or Goff. Maya put something in the chat as well for if any of you are interested in the application for Goff Trailblazers or Goff Scholars for the upcoming year. And you can find the Goff Strategic Leadership Club on Campus Connect. And I'll pass it to Brad Wilcox, who will share his screen for the suitable points for the QR code. And last point to make, if any of you want to stay further on, the panelists will stay for an additional just 10-15 minutes. If you guys have any additional questions or want to utilize that time to connect with them and introduce yourself, feel free. They would love to hear from you. Awesome. And I will now have Brad share his screen.
Yeah, on that point, just really quick, Ethan, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms and I'm going to kick you panelists out into your individual breakout rooms. Once you business scholars get your passport points, you're free to hop between rooms and ask questions to any of the panelists. So I'll do that right now. And here's the code.
Cool. And Brad, are breakout rooms available?
They should be available, yes.
I do think that if folks would like to join a breakout room, that they have to request to be placed in one, Brad. So I just put in the chat, folks can message you, and then you can manually add them to be matched.
I got a notification on my Zoom. You go to the 3 dots on the bottom and click join breakout room. I can see the 4 different panelists' names with an option to join.
And
maybe
just
that's an option for folks.
And just a thought, Brad, I think we're at a small enough group where we could just have this be a main meeting for anyone, just to unmute if you have any questions for the panelists or would like to connect at all.
Absolutely, I'll bring them back. Does anyone still need the QR code? I will take that as a no. If you do, you can let me know.
Winch Ingleton just threw in the chat.
Okay. Then give me a sec.
Winch, if you can't scan it because you're on your phone, I can add you manually for the points. Just let me know.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. That was awesome. Like that went extremely well. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Congrats, you all. That was amazing.
Go Ethan, moderator of the year. And Luis, sorry. I was just sticking with the golf club roots.
That was all Ethan now.
Not all of it. Luis couldn't have done that without you, man. That was cool. That was fun. Wow, that was art. It's like already over. Just all this stuff like going into this event now, like looking at it now. This is like our farewell for the club stuff too. For this semester, it's wild.
Panelists, thank you so much. Your insight was so critical, and I think it's just very informative to hear from folks that are near peer, you know, to our students that are at this point in their career. So yeah, thank you all so much, and thanks for taking the time late on a Tuesday evening.
Thanks for having me. It's a good time.
Thank you guys again.
Hi, all. I'm
Awesome.
Stephanie, the person who emailed you initially. Good to put a face to a name.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for having us. It was very good. And yeah, y'all have a good night as well.
Thanks
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.
And then I know that there was a question about cross-referencing names and times that folks joined the call. It looked like there were a few folks that came into the waiting room after 7:10. I don't know if people I know sometimes people get kicked off and then they have to log back on, but Louise, I can just send you the registration list and it should have all the timestamps. So if for some reason you need to do any magic on your end.
And don't worry, I didn't let any of the stragglers come in at the very end. Just trying to swoop those points.
Yeah, it's good that you didn't let them in. Thank you. All right,
That was
well,
a
I think
great turnout, though. So good.
I'm gonna head out. I think I added Winch's points too to suitable, but I really enjoyed this event, and maybe hopefully in the future I can apply to the Goff Scholars. It sounds like a really good program. Ethan was telling me to apply, but I might get a different position next year. But if I don't get it, it's okay. I think I'll join Goff Scholars. So.
Do it.
There we go.
Highly recommend.
You already have the in, Luis. I'm pretty sure this is a good start.
Yeah. Well, I hope you all have a great night.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you, Luis. Thank you.
You
I did an